say for brands sort of struggling to connect with this consumer, you know, Gen Z brands that are run by Gen Z founders, you know, it's so seamless for them. But for the rest of us that are a bit older, you know, it's really sort of getting in, you know, the way they think is so fast. That by the time you think you have it figured out, like they're on to something else.
That's right.
So for a brand, you know, what are kind of the key pillars or values that are constant that you can build against?
So I think there are two elements to the question you are asking. There is an element of what make a brand successful with Gen Z. And when I look at all those brands that you call, you know, they are targeting Gen Z or they created by Gen Z founders, I call them Z brands. And the Z brands, there is an emerging formula actually. And if you look at it, it's about affordable prices because Gen Z is extremely cost conscious. The second is there is a purpose. So you have to stand up for something that they care about. And it could be the environment, it could be women issue, it could be racial issues. There is a very long list of causes that Gen Z care about, but they like to engage with brands that do good in the world. The third thing is really what you call the aesthetic. Is how do you create the aesthetic that is appealing, that is authentic, that is imperfect. And it had to be done in an authentic way, because if you just kind of throw in, you know, clashing colors, it's not going to do it. And they are savvy enough to spot that. So wherever you come from, you have to be super authentic. And the last thing is the marketing. The marketing has to be recognizing the characteristics of this generation. It's a very diverse generation. They expect to see themselves in your advertising, in your communication. And unfortunately, 60% of Gen Z would tell you that they don't see themselves in advertising today. So, you know, I think the numbers are much better for the beauty industry, because I think the beauty industry has done quite a good job in this area, but it's still, there is a long way to go. So I think if you take these four things, they're really becoming like, if you like, a formula of what a Z brand is about. Now, in terms of kind of more the established brands, and you know, in my book, I call it the next generation marketing. And I've done a lot of research to kind of figure out what are the components. And I think that really identified 6 components. One is the purpose, as I mentioned before. The second thing is the embracing diversity. It's no longer, and you can't do it in a way that you pay lip service to it. It has to be real, and it's no longer a nice to have. It's a must have. And the third thing is communities. I believe that communities is one of the most untapped opportunities for brands to engage with Gen Z. They are all about community. They crave human connection. They want to be part of something. And if you are able to create a brand community that really allow people to participate, to contribute, to be part of your brand, co-create with Gen Z, bring them into your product development process, then I think you can start engaging in a more meaningful way with them. The next one is really personalization. You're really, with Gen Z, you have to personalize everything. This is a highly individualistic generation. And again, like with the diversity, 70% of Gen Z feel that they are not getting personalized enough communications from brands, which is actually quite staggering considering the amount of money that gets spent every year on personalization and on micro targeting. there is still a long way to go. And I think the reason why it is important is because they are individualistic. They think of themselves as brands, and they look for brands to help them build their brand. So that's how you have to think about it.
Hannah, personalization is one of those topics that's so loaded, right? Because it can mean anything from a quiz that just recommends existing products, all the way in beauty to doing like a DNA swab and having, you know, product made for you. And in between, there's a whole lot that
I think it's all the above. And I think
really?
I think it's all the above. And I think every brand has to find where personalization matters most. As you said, if I am a beauty brand and, you know, take Curology, for example, in beauty, they have done a great job in giving a personalized service to people by professionals who are either a dermatologist or a registered nurse that build personal relationship with a client and help them to kind of get to the right formulation for them. And I think that's for them, that was the aspect of personalization. For somebody else in the fashion industry, it could be how the messages that I'm sending on my email campaigns every day are truly personalized. Do I understand the style of this individual in a personal basis, or I'm just going to send mass mail and hope that something will stick? So I think every brand has to find the angle in which they can give that personalization in the best way. So the next aspect of it is content. And in my book, I call it Feed the Content Beast. Gen Z grew up with instant access to information. Exploration is part of their everyday life. And they expect brands to satisfy their curiosity and the need for discovery through relevant and inspiring content. And you said in the beginning, they move so fast. By the time you figure it out, they are on to something else. So I think for brands, one of the biggest challenges is how do I constantly create content that resonates with this generation? You literally have to have a content production machines that bring this content constantly to life and spread it, because you have to create that content at the same speed that they can consume it. So that's I think another area. And the last but not least is really delivering unique experiences. And they want experiences again that are authentic, cool, memorable, and shareable. For them, if they go to an event or attend an experience, they want to be able to tell the world and share it on social media. And they want to be active participants. Gen Z doesn't like to view things. They want to be the protagonist. They want to be the one that go through the experience. So I think, you know, there are lots of ways to do that. Some of it is technology driven, but you can do even live events that have nothing to do with technology, but put them in the center of your experience.
You know, one of the things that that you just said made me think, you know, I think a lot of people make the assumption, because this is sort of the first real digitally native generation, that they want to buy and engage in everything online. But you actually said that they crave human interaction. So my question is, you know, everyone's talking about the growth of online retail. I mean, I'm of the mindset that retail's not dead. Boring retail is dead, but retail's never going to go away. And maybe that's just because I come from retail and I love it so much. But, you know, what is this generation's relationship to sort of brick and mortar versus online, and what is the behavior in each? Because there is an intersection that happens.
Absolutely. And, you know, I spend a lot of time talking to them and surveying and researching this topic with Gen Z. And it's clearly they shop online, especially, you know, during the pandemic, like everyone else, they migrated online more. But their preference, if you ask them where they prefer to shop, 58% will tell you they prefer to shop in stores. They like the store because the store is that human interaction. It could be the human interaction of I'm going with my friends or with my siblings to the mall and we go to a store and we have fun together, or even interacting with people in the store. So they like that physical experience of going to a store. And interestingly enough, even in the pandemic, when I actually asked Gen Z how they foresee themselves post-pandemic, and most of them say they are looking forward to go back to store. Some of them said they may even go even more often to stores to kind of compensate for the months they've gone. And only a very small percentage say, that they prefer to shop online. And I think that's again, it's a reflection of that need for the personal connection.
Yeah. So I know I want to be cognizant of time, because I could sit here and talk to you all afternoon, but we have about 10 minutes. I want to make sure that we tackle sort of the workplace, because I think that was a big stumbling block with millennials, where all of a sudden employers found themselves struggling to connect with sort of a new way of contemplating work, a generation that sort of thought about work in a different way, both in sort of what it meant in their life and how they wanted to execute work. The Gen Z cohort is still very young, so we can not make the same mistakes if we get smart on it.
That's right, and I think that's something that companies will have to start preparing for it as quickly as possible, because on one hand, there is just a new generation that is very different and has different expectations from the workplace. And now we are layering of it, the COVID period and what it means to this generation. So I think the first thing to understand is Gen Z are very independent. They're very ambitious and competitive. So this is not the millennials doing kumbaya in the office, wanting tennis tables and kind of cute atmospheres and the Google Office kind of design. They want to have their personal space. They want to progress very fast. They want to be paid above the average. So their expectations are super high. But I think one of the things that people who employ Gen Z need to be aware of is that we are now moving into a truly multi-generational workforce. And if you think about it, when I think about some of my former clients, there are still late 60 and even early 70 people in the workforce. And now you have these newcomers who are early 20s. We're talking between 40 to 50 years gap between the older and the youngers. And what really happens is that you have every generation has their own views about what does it mean to be a good employee? What does it mean to do a good job? What does it mean to perform in the workplace? And when you have these views that are contradicting each other, you could create some conflicts. And the conflict could arise really from clashing in values and work style, but also from subconscious bias.
Yeah.
And, the older people think the younger people are too soft, they're not hardworking. The young people think the older are detached and disconnected. So I think one of the most important things that companies can do is think about how they create a more harmonious workplace. And there are some really good strategies that I'm talking about in the book on how to do that. And I think one thing is actually to put the cards on the table and have conversations. And the other is to try and find as much commonalities as possible, because in the end of the day, no matter which generation you are, I think we all want to go to work and do a good job and get good feedback and feel that we are doing something that is meaningful. And I think if we build on these commonalities, we will be able to create a more harmonious workplace that is functioning and productive. Of course, there are always things that have to do with what I call technical HR, which is how do you design your benefits, how do you design compensation, how do you run your reviews, and so on and so forth. And those need to be adjusted by generations. But in essence, I think it's all about finding commonalities.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think that brands that can have representation, like real representation in each of these generations in a way that there is a collaborative environment. So you're not all sitting at a table and there's like the eye roll when someone says something, but more of like, you know, a Gen X person having a Gen Z mentor and vice versa. Like, I think people who can unlock sort of the generations working together as a team, it's going to be such a competitive edge.
That's right. And I think reverse mentoring is one of the things I'm discussing in the book. You can get a person, a Gen X or a boomer mentoring a newcomer, but also get the newcomer to mentor the other generation. It could be, you know, using their digital skills. It could be, you know, using their knowledge of Gen Z culture to inform top management about where things heading. And I think that's kind of where you bring people together.
Yeah, I agree. So we have 2 minutes. I'm going to ask you one last question, and I'm going to turn the question that you ask everyone you interview back on you. So what is your biggest dream?
My biggest dream is that the work I'm doing will really I really want to make a contribution and help as much as I can to integrate this generation that I am very fascinated by and very passionate about in business and society. So every little help that I can provide anyone with getting to know this generation and getting to engage them better and smooth their way into the workforce or, you know, the consumer market, I would feel that I've done something good.
Well, I can say I'm only partially through the book, but it is, I think for any marketer, brand owner, just sort of human being, it is such a great book and so informative. So I'm going to share it with everyone I know.
Thank you.
And Irina, thank you so much for allowing me to have this conversation with Hannah. She's one of my favorite go-tos on the topic. So thank you so much for this opportunity. And Hannah, I wish you all the luck on this book. It's so well done.
Thank you, Kelly. And thank you, Irina, for having us.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so interesting. I was sitting and mesmerizing by all this story, and we definitely see the influences of these generations on the industries right now. It's coming so strong, especially after the pandemic when everything is accelerating so fast. So amazing! I can't wait for my book. It's in a way, and yes, you can order it on Amazon anywhere, right?
It's available. It's available on Amazon and it's available on my website. Yes. If you purchase it from my website, there is a special discount code for INNOCOS. So the community.
I will put it in a video at the end of the video.
You can go and get that discount.
Excellent. So this webinar is recorded for all of you who watched it and would like to watch again. We will send you the link in a couple of hours when it's processed. And yes, I can't wait to get my hands on these books.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. It was fun. Thank you, Kelly. Amazing interview as always.
Thank you.